The biggest rail fanning event so far this year was the chase of the big boy from Cheyenne to Ogden and back. We're going to take a look.
This is Railroad Showcase. All right, so this week we're going to take a look at some more of the great footage that we've seen of the big boy running out and back to Cheyenne for all the festivities. We met some awesome people when we were out there, got some really good interviews, one of which was Steve Sweeney, which we were pretty excited about.
Yeah.
Great guy. And we met Ed Dickens before the actual interview, and so we're going to talk about that a little bit too.
You know, it was... So... A number of years ago, when Ed took over the UP STEAM program, he became a little bit of a controversial figure because everybody loves Steve Lee. He was the face of the UP STEAM program. He's an old school railroader, and there were feelings and opinions and attitudes about the transition from one leadership to another, and the internet, of course, was bubbling over with everyone's feelings and opinions. And I have to admit, I didn't know anything about Mr. Dickens at all, and though I had seen and heard Steve Lee a number of times, and I, was glad that he was doing the work that he was doing, keeping the steam going on, I didn't have anything to base an opinion about Ed Dickens on, other than a lot of the feelings and opinions that were being expressed on the internet. And so it was really a pleasure to have a chance to meet him in person. And in the last few months, I've actually found out that some of the people I know him, have met him, have worked with him. And so I've had a chance to, get a better sense of what kind of person he is. All of those firsthand accounts that I had been hearing over the last several months, the positive firsthand accounts about Mr. Dickens, were reinforced when we had a chance to actually meet him.
Yeah, so we actually met him twice. The first time was completely unexpected and really random. We had just had dinner a few blocks away from the Union Station where the 844 and the Big Boy were being held, and that night they had them lit up. They had lights on them so people could get night photography, and some of them turned out really well. But anyway, we were standing out there with the group of guys that we had known from different things, and all of a sudden, Ed just walked out of the night and joined the group, some of the people that he had met and known, and just started talking with everybody. And of course, everyone was wanting to use that opportunity to talk to him and ask him questions, which he was very willing to answer. And just from that initial impression of not a super long time, it was only about 45 minutes, an hour that he was out there, but you could tell that he loved trains. He loved the hobby. This wasn't just a job to him. This was something that he truly enjoyed doing, and he thought it was a privilege that he got to work on this scale, working with engines like the 4014.
Right. And we say just 45 minutes, but the man had been killing himself for months. He said he was actually living at the shop for the last 4 months. He had been running flat out. I can only guess that it was 16, 18, 20-hour days that he was putting in. And just out of the blue, he walks up to a group of rail fans standing in front of the engine in the dark, in the cold, uncomfortable wind, and shot the breeze with us for nearly an hour. That was impressive to me. He wanted to just kind of get out of the public eye and just talk trains.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of talking trains, he had mentioned that he didn't mind being called a foamer because of that appreciation. He viewed it as what it is, a deep appreciation for steam engines and for trains in general. And he was more than happy and willing to share that with other people. It's also nice that he's not embarrassed about where he started. He acknowledges that his roots were in the historical restoration of 2-foot and 3-foot gauge. He spent some time working in 15-inch gauge, and he doesn't apologize for that.
I respect that a lot. You know, we all started somewhere, and he doesn't try to hide any of that. Having had a chance to be in the room with Steve Lee and hear him speak and shake his hand, and now having had a chance to speak and shake the hand with Ed Dickens, I feel like there are people that I've spoken with who have wanted me to like take a side or choose a camp. And to be honest, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. No. I have a lot of respect for Steve Lee. He is an old school railroader and has a certain kind of approach to things. And he kept steam running on the UP for years. And if it hadn't had a strong leader in that era, the program may not have kept going.
Yeah.
Mr. Dickens has a largely different approach to how he wants to run the shop and how he wants to maintain the engines, and I have respect for him. They're different men with different approaches, and I think they both have strengths that I can respect. And so, you know, I'm glad Steve kept it going. I'm glad that Ed is keeping it going.
And no matter what someone's feelings might be, personal or on the internet, the recognition needs to be given for the achievements that both men have made.
Well, we were here for, of course, the sesquicentennial for the Golden Spike out of Promontory yesterday. We were there. But as both Ray and I are big-time steam enthusiasts from back east, we're both from Virginia. So we came out here to see the world's largest and most powerful steam locomotive. And we started in Cheyenne, the day that it rolled out of the steam shop.
May 2nd.
And I was really surprised that they made it a very, very real challenge to overcome. And I cannot say enough about the men working for Union Pacific that restored this engine. If you had told me, when I was in the Navy, I was stationed out of Long Beach. I'd been to Pomona. I saw this engine when it was on display. The idea that it would steam in the 21st century is beyond hope, beyond belief. When it came out of Cheyenne and back down under the bridge, I stood right over the top of the locomotive as it backed down, and Ray said,
what's it? We've heard the engine, we've seen the engine, now we're going to smell the engine and we're going to taste the engine.
I mean, it almost brings tears to your eye.
I'm Greg Robinson, and we ran into Steve Sweeney from Trains Magazine. Steve, it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to see you again. How are things going so far?
Fantastic. We are having a great time. So how about you guys?
I'm having a great time. Today's my day off, so I'm not in uniform today. But I tell you, I came by to see Big Boy last night just because I wanted to. And I came by again today. And I am so impressed. I'm so thrilled that there are people, as you said, from everywhere that have come to see this locomotive. I've ran into Brits. I've been told they're Australians here. I've seen people from the East Coast, the West Coast, the North, the South. I think some Canadians. I think
China, Japan.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. I think I saw someone from Tokyo on the bridge in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So this is great. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
And the weather's perfect.
I know. What was that? I mean, usually when you go out rail fanning, usually when you go see trains, it's going to be, dark skies, gray skies, bad lighting, extra cold, extra hot. I think this is pretty much perfect.
And on the chase out, though, just cold enough to get some perfect steam effects.
Perfect steam. That's
so,
right.
Did you have a chance to ride the train at all?
I rode the train once. I rode an 844 in the cab of the 844 between Medicine Bow and Rollins.
Oh my goodness!
And that was fun. That was fun. I've never been in the cab of the 844 before, and I had been in the cab of the 4014, but it was dead in Pomona 5 years ago.
Okay.
So and I had been up in the cab at Rollins, but just to look inside, it was already, everything had been tied down for the night. They were ready just to get everyone off the train.
Okay, and so you're in the cab
Yes.
of one of the most advanced superpower engines running
Anywhere in the world.
And you're in a train just a little bit behind
Yes.
the newly restored Big Boy. What
yes.
was that like?
Oh my gosh. Right now, I'm getting kind of tingly about it. In the moment, it's like, well, I got to get this shot. I got to get that shot. And if I ever get to do it again, I will just enjoy it. Because looking back on it, I mean, I just get a hint of the side rods moving up front of the Big Boy on a tight curve. And I can see them moving on 844, and I realize that this is, 60 years of history in the making before we get to see it. And I got to tell you a quick story. When I was in the cab of the 844, I was really impressed, not just with how well the crew was operating the train, but with how well they were interacting with people on the right-of-way. I mean, there were rail fans and photographers and just families along the right-of-way. And they were waving to them, and people were waving back, and it was like this emotional connection between the crew on the train and the people on the side of the tracks. And that was something you cannot fake. It was wonderful. It was just such a great feeling.
And I've seen so many posts of people on Facebook who have said, "Oh, I wouldn't want to go out there. There's too many people and the attitudes and all of that." But from what I've seen, everyone is having a great time.
I'm having a great time. No, and I haven't seen any bad behavior. I've heard that there's been bad behavior on the road, someone pulling out in front of someone else, or someone being a little bit snippy or rude. But you know what? I haven't seen it.
And it's very minimal.
Yes.
I mean, compared to the number of people who are
Right.
out here and all of the activity going on,
Oh, absolutely.
the vast majority, everyone's having a good time with good experiences.
I agree. And you know what? The food's been really good too out here. I don't think I've been to a bad restaurant yet.
No.
So I mean, you've got the world's, move over, Flying Scotsman. This is going to be the world's most famous steam locomotive in a year's time. You've got the world's most famous steam locomotive. We got great food, great weather, good people. I think this is probably the top rail fan experience of my life so far.
It's mine too, or very close to it.
Yes.
Very close to it. Steve, thank you so much.
It was my
such
pleasure.
a pleasure.
Absolutely. Have a
All
great
right.
time.
You too.
We'll do it.
Take
Thanks.
care. This was about half of what we had on the Big Boy and our thoughts and comments and ruminations about Mr. Dickens, and about half of the interviews that we got from the people there. So if you want to see the full episode, again, head over to rrshowcase.com and sign up to be a silver or gold spike member for as little as $2.49.
And remember, if you are a Gold Spike member and you haven't checked out our page recently, head over to the Episodes tab, and there's a new page for the Gold Spike bonus. And we've got some extra content there just for you Gold Spike members.
Thanks for watching, and remember, keep your hand on the throttle and your eye on the rail.